Hey Jen, how are you doing?
I'm good, Spencer. How are you?
I'm doing
I
good.
just want to call
We
you
haven't talked.
Clarice.
I know. We'll do that every time. Hello, Clarice. How are you doing?
Hello, Clarice.
You've had a busy month, I guess. Yeah, you married off
Yeah.
one of your daughters, right?
Yep.
Was it your
Yep.
daughter that got married, huh? How did that go? Everything go
My
good?
my oldest. Yeah, it was great. I feel like it's been nonstop since the weddings.
Well, all right. Let me ask you, what's changed as far as your you and your daughter? Was she living with you before she got married? Did that change? Are you
No,
like an
she
empty
was.
nester now, or no? So they
Uh,
were already living together. Okay.
Everything went well and everything went smoothly and like she wasn't stressed. Like there's not, you always see like people get super stressed and if something goes wrong on their wedding day, like people don't show up, become missing the day of the wedding.
I have
Um,
no idea what you're talking about.
so yeah, so those kinds of things, like everything went really well and smoothly, and I was just so happy. She was happy, and that it went the way she wanted it, and it was good. And I mean, I still have, I have four. I live with my second oldest daughter. She's like roommate, so we split the rent and stuff. But like, I have my other youngest kids living with me, my four younger ones, and so I'm not an empty nester anytime soon.
Okay.
And it's funny because like I'll see other moms, they get really upset, like oh they're leaving, whatever, and I'm just like, maybe I've just been around my kids too long, but I'm like I can't wait to be empty nester. I feel
But you
terrible.
don't
I
see
was like,
that.
why
You don't
don't
see
I
that
feel
happening
sad?
anytime soon. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
So
just kind of maybe because they're so spaced out that as they go, it's not like I'm truly in it. Maybe once River leaves because he's the youngest and he just turned 13. So maybe when he leaves, then I'll truly be like, but kids come back and they're all, it just
yeah.
depends on the situation. So,
Well,
I mean,
absolutely. Plus,
but
you'll be like four deep into being a grandmother by the time River's gone. So it's
no,
all
I
good.
hope not.
That
Not really. Not ready yet for that.
yeah, yeah. Well, all right. So my oldest, he's 15, and we're just coming off of a weekend, and he was supposed to go on a fishing tournament, and at the last minute, it didn't work out because the boat captain got sick, and so we found this out like at 10 o'clock yesterday morning, and I had to give him the bad news. And I said, well, the good news is you get to help me go out and collect wood because we are finally here in Texas getting into the autumn fall season. And I said, look, it's going to be 70 degrees today. We're going to go out and collect firewood. So we did that, get back in. I'm sitting down. It's probably 3, 4 o'clock. And I'm like, I'm going to have a beer. I'm going to relax. It was a working day. And 5 minutes later, he comes in. He's like, Dad, I'm bored. I'm like, okay. He does only two things when he's bored. He'll eat and then he'll eat some more. So those are the two things that he does when he gets bored. So I'm like, all right, fine. You want to let's sit down and watch a movie because I didn't feel like doing anything else. I didn't want to go and drive him to some pond to go fishing. So I said, let's sit and watch a movie.
Yeah.
So I turned the TV on and I put on Amazon Prime, and one of the suggested movies pops up, and it was from my era. It was Weird Science. It's a John Hughes movie, from The
Yeah.
Breakfast Club and all this and that. I'm like, and I love his movies. So I'm like, Elvis, okay, come sit down, watch this movie. I know you don't know anything about it. This is not from your generation. But when this movie came out, I was about your age. So maybe, you can see the humor because obviously the premise of it is these two kids are probably 15 years old and their parents go out of town and they're little computer geeks when computers first came out. Long story short, they design and they build a female because they want companion because they're nerds and they can't get real, dates. So I started thinking, I'm like, okay, as this movie is going on, these kids, these 15-year-old kids, are building a woman in her late 20s, maybe even early 30s. And I think they took this movie as far as they possibly could back in the 80s. And I'm like, you know what? I don't think this movie could have been made in today's time. You know, when you think about it, because
Yeah.
you've got the cancel culture, and you know, I guess people at the end of the day, I feel personally that people are just too sensitive, you know, about. So think about some movies that maybe that came out, you know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, that
Yeah.
absolutely couldn't be made today. Back in the 80s, there were movies that came out that I guess people are just too uptight to deal with. So
Well, first of all, did your son enjoy it, or did he think like, oh, this is dumb?
yeah, you know, again, because he's 15 years old, I don't think he'll let me know that he likes something that
Yeah.
was not within his generation. But I did catch him a couple of times. You know, he did actually set his phone down, and he was actually watching it. But you know, the music was different. The clothes, they were different.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking, you know, yes, the movie has a sequence where there's a big party because the guys, they were nerds, and they were not accepted in high school. But when this gorgeous woman that they built made things happen, they had a huge party at their house. Now I'm starting to think, okay, my son's 15 years old. You're not having a party at my house when you go away. But luckily, he's got a good head on his shoulders.
I find that sometimes I'll see movies and I'll be like, oh, I want my kids to see that because it was so good, or I'll reference something and then they don't get it because I referenced it, and they don't know. But like Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Fast Times at Ridgemont High is an excellent movie.
Yep.
I love that movie. But the more I think about it, like, I don't know if I'm ready to sit and watch that with my kids. Like, they could watch it, but I don't know if I want to be sitting next to them watching that movie. Just because of just everything that's in it. You got the Phoebe Cates coming out of the pool, you know, and then just, you know, Judge Reinhold in the bathroom being like, yeah, you know, like, I just don't know if I could seriously sit next to them watching that. And then you also have Jennifer Jason Leigh, who gets completely nude, and I'm just like, in the movie premise, she's like 15, I think, and so she's also with she's just also with some random adult dude that she meets at the mall that she works with.
Yeah.
So, like, obviously that whole age gap thing, and she's underage. Like, at that time, yeah, I mean, I'm sure it was kind of a big deal, but like at the time, I feel like not like now. Like now, there's no way you're gonna have a 15-year-old, and I'm sure she was not 15 because she got naked, so I'm sure she was over 18. But when they filmed the movie, but the premise of it and being with that adult and like it's okay, like whatever, and then
Yeah.
she gets pregnant, and then all that stuff, and then it's just a lot of things in that movie where you're just like, I'm not comfortable watching this with my kids.
Yeah. Okay. And to that point, I think, yeah, I would. We'll set aside watching movies like that with our kids, because I don't know about you. I was thinking back when a movie would come on and we would watch it, you know, with my parents. And anytime you have like a nude scene or something, you're going to be uncomfortable. The kid's going to be uncomfortable. The parents are going to be uncomfortable. So we'll set that aside. But I agree. Fast Times at Ridgemont High. You know, with that, the topics that they had to deal with, you know, is that something that people would want to go out and watch? I agree. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't think that they could remake that movie now. They could remake it and make it something else, but I just don't think they would. I don't think it would just. I don't think it would be made the same. Like, I think it would be definitely changed a lot now. But yeah. But as far as like, see, and I don't think about movies so much now when you say would they do it now, but I'm a huge The Office rewatcher. So I watch The Office and I'm like, that would not fly now. Like the
Oh,
things that
really?
Michael Scott
Okay.
says.
Okay.
I'm like, there's no way. Like, just the whole, like, there's an episode where he's playing basketball. Are you an Office watcher?
Not as hardcore as probably you.
Yeah, no, I've probably, I have, first of all, I have two versions saved in my Peacock. So they have the regular, normal, The Office version. Then they have the supersized Office version with all the stuff they cut out when the show played, throwing it all back in. So I had all the it's unedited, uncut, it's all the stuff. So I watch the supersized stuff when I'm like eating or just want to watch something funny, lighthearted. And then if I'm not feeling well or I can't sleep, I'll watch the other one because
Really?
if I miss stuff, I don't care because it's just the other version. I'm crazy. Call it autism. I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with me. But my daughter seems to think I'm on the spectrum. I'm like, no. But then she points out things and I'm like, okay, maybe. I don't know. But there's an episode where it's the main boss lady comes in and she wants to do like a women's meeting, and so it's all the women in the office, and so Michael's getting kind of jealous, like, we want to be a part of it, whatever, fine, we're going to go downstairs and have our own meeting. So he goes downstairs to the warehouse where all the warehouse people are working, and usually the warehouse workers don't mix in with the office people, so it's just kind of this funny thing. But they're down there and they're doing all this stuff, getting in the way. Of course the warehouse guys are like, come on, man, like, get the hell out of here, whatever. But he kind of interjects and gets everybody in there, and they're talking about different stuff. And he screws something up, and so he's like, crap, I'm going to order some pizza. And so he's like, everybody loves pizza, black people like pizza, white people like pizza. And then he's like, black people like pizza, right? Why would you feel the need to say that? And then it cuts to the scene of all of them eating pizza, and he looks at one of the black workers or two of them, and they're eating pizza, and he's like, yeah, it's just weird things, and they have a diversity day where you have to figure out what each person's ethnicity is, and so they're wearing one says Asian. And so the other person's like, you're not a good driver. You this, says all these stereotypical things about these different cultures or whatever ethnicities. And I just feel like nowadays that people would be like, oh my God. But it's hilarious. It truly is hilarious.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of those old Saturday Night Lives, the 70s Saturday Night Lives, where they would say and do. And it was funny. And it could be, what's the word? Not offensive, but some people would take offense to it. But it's comedy. It's funny. It's just funny.
Yeah.
Relax. You don't have to take it so seriously. He's not saying.
See, that's my whole thing right there. Exactly. Stop getting so butthurt so easy. That's my whole gripe.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because I was watching that movie, I just said, okay, what other movies are there that possibly would, not exist today? It wouldn't even make it off of the, the director's floor or the investors. It takes people to invest the money to make the movie. So I found some movies that I've never knew existed. But when I started reading about them, I'm like, oh yeah, we have to talk about that. And what I'm getting at is there's an Adam Sandler movie. It was probably one of the very first movies that he put out. And you probably have never heard it because I hadn't. It's called That's My Boy. Have you heard it?
I think I've heard the title, but I don't think I ever saw it.
Yeah. So here's the premise. Adam Sandler... a middle school teacher gets pregnant by one of her students.
What? Wait,
Yeah.
Adam Sandler gets pregnant?
Well, no, Adam Sandler, I don't know if he was, again, I haven't watched it, but it says Adam Sandler, middle schooler, gets his teacher pregnant and then tries to bond with the kid years later. Yeah. So maybe it's it's one of those fast forward years later, but a kid the whole premise of this movie is a kid gets his high school teacher pregnant. Actually, no, it's a middle school teacher, so it gets even worse.
So it's like that whole Mary Kay Letourneau thing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But there's no way that that would ever get made today.
No.
And then you've got some of the more known movies like Revenge of the Nerds, where all the kids get bullied. You know, that's the whole basic premise of it. So I think nowadays no one's going to, put a movie out to where kids get bullied. That's a very sensitive thing. I don't know, maybe because I've got a 13-year-old and a 15-year-old that's always discussed,
Yeah.
But I don't know. I watched it and it didn't affect me. I didn't go out and want to bully kids. It was just a funny movie. In fact, that's the whole thing is it's the revenge of the nerds. So the people that were getting bullied, they had the last laugh. But again, I don't think a movie like that could get put out. It's just crazy. Again, people are just too sensitive.
Well, I mean, they did Mean Girls, but Mean Girls 2 was also like early 2000s, and you haven't I can't think of another movie like that. And again, now it's been there's Mean Girls the musical now, and so now it's more so they everybody knows that the Mean Girls get it in the end, so it's kind of I don't know, but yeah, I definitely think that people are just way too sensitive. I definitely miss George Carlin days.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Where it's just he just told it like it is and didn't give a f- and just was stop being such a big freaking crybaby.
Right. No, exactly. I agree 100%. I mean, Jesus, another movie that was probably one of the biggest movies from the late 80s was Dirty Dancing. You think about it, Patrick Swayze. This guy was well into his 20s, and some girl goes on a summer vacation with her family.
And she was 18, though.
Was she? Was she?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think she was in college. That was her first year in college, but she was just 18. I mean, she was still a baby. No pun intended.
Okay, so all right, let me ask you this: was her sister younger or older?
Her sister, I thought was.
Remember
older.
The sister? She was older.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I thought she was older.
Because she kind of hooked up as well.
Yeah, I think she was older because I think she was talking about getting married with some dude that what she wanted to be with. I don't know. I'm pretty sure they were older.
Okay, so the way I saw it is it was an unmentioned. This was their what they thought was going to be their last summer vacation as the family. Because their kids are going to be getting older, but I don't know. To me, I took it as
she had to be older because Jennifer Grey's character's nickname was Baby. She was the baby of the family, so she was the.
There you go.
Yeah, but I mean that goes back to my point of movies that I watched as a kid. Why did I watch that as a kid? I was 10 years old when I saw Dirty Dancing. Didn't think anything wrong with it. Didn't think it was inappropriate. I thought it was the best movie ever, and I was in love with Patrick Swayze.
Perfect. Yeah.
But I was 10.
Yeah, it didn't traumatize you. You didn't want to go out and meet some dancer when you go on a summer vacation with your parents.
Maybe.
Yeah. But if you did, you would have had a head on your shoulders, though, right? So I don't know. I don't think that movie would be.
Made a lot of questionable decisions in my young age.
I don't think that movie would have been put out today.
Well, they did. They remade it. They remade Dirty Dancing. Easily within the last 5 years, they remade Dirty.
Really?
Maybe the last 10 years they remade it, but I didn't see it because I said, "What the hell is this crap? Why would I want to rewatch that?" But thinking about movies that I saw when I was younger, even with Revenge of the Nerds, I always thought I shouldn't be watching this. I was as a kid, there were things in it where I was ooh, I knew I shouldn't be watching it. Same thing with Fast Times. same thing. Because I think I was probably 12 when I saw Fast Time, and then of course you go to the ones that were obviously inappropriate, like Porky's.
Oh yeah, yeah.
All the Porky's movies, everybody was like, "Ooh, the Porky's is on. Let's watch this," But
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely
Porky's,
inappropriate.
Blazing Saddles. I don't know if you've seen that or not. That was an early, I believe it's probably an early 80s. But
Gene Wilder.
yeah. Yeah. That was a very racially charged movie.
Do you have are there other movies that you're thinking of as well? Because I want to segue to something now that you're bringing this up.
Do it.
So, the other day I was on Instagram. I spend way too much time on Instagram, but I was on Instagram and a video came up. I obviously will get a lot of 80s and 90s throwback stuff, or people making comments about stuff, Did you live in the 90s if you didn't do this? And it's somebody going through a CD case while they're driving, a CD in their mouth and go flipping through it. It's just, steering with their knee, like those
Right.
kinds of things. And so there was one, though, that I saw, and it was talking about songs and song lyrics, where it was like, I was today years old when I didn't realize what the song said, or whatever.
Okay.
And it was because I had never noticed it either. It was a Prince song. I want to say it was Little Red Corvette. Have you heard this before? Because if you listen to the lyrics, the person just did this one little bit, but when I looked through the whole thing, I was like, holy cow. So it says, you see, you're the kind of person that believes in making out once, love 'em and leave 'em fast. I guess I must be dumb because you had a pocket full of horses, Trojans, and some of them used. But it was Saturday night. I guess it makes it all right. And you say, baby, whatever. And I'm like, holy shit.
What have I got
Never
to lose?
did I think that that's what he was singing. I just sang along with the song, and no clue. And there's been quite a few, and I wish I would have written them all down when I saw them, because at the time I was like, I had no idea that's what he was talking about. Because you have the obvious songs like George Michael, I Want Your Sex, huh?
Little Nicky, Prince.
Oh, and then Prince, Little Nicky, or Darling Nicky.
Or is
Yeah,
that
I was
Darling
singing
Nikki?
that
Okay.
again at 9 years old. Saying the words masturbating to a magazine. Never a clue as to what that meant.
Right.
That was not even in my vocabulary. Couldn't have told you what that meant. But here I
Yeah,
am,
we
singing along.
we could probably talk for hours about lyrics. That's insane. But there again,
Well, I mean,
not everybody listens and takes and absorbs the lyrics. It's either just a catchy beat or a poppy beat, or it's just a group that you like and you can dance to it. But yeah, I guess that's why I love that. That's why I love music so much. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you and I were probably different, listening to a lot of different music growing up. I don't know if you and I listened to the same. You were more rock and rollish than I was, right? I mean, I feel like you were more of a heavy metal. I was like the faux heavy metal, like in middle school when like Warrant came out and Skid Row, like those were the things that I listened to and thought, ooh,
No.
But I wasn't like a truly like, I wasn't watching Headbangers Ball or anything.
Yeah, I was more into that just specific genre back then than I am now. Now it's just everything. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's whatever grasps me, and I try to look into the deeper side of it versus just something that's a catchy tune. Whether it's a country song or heavy metal or whatever. Gosh, even some of the more poppier stuff, if it's got some pretty good meaning that I can really dive into it and peel it like an onion to understand what they were trying to say. I don't know. Maybe that just comes more from age. But
No, I was gonna say I grew up listening to a lot of music, so and my parents were the type that would give me the Columbia House, go ahead and pay a penny and pick 8 cassette tapes, and I was like in heaven, and I would get all the music I wanted. So I was really lucky that my parents let me do that, because I don't know if I'd be as well rounded with music as I am now. Like my dad, I grew up with my dad listening to. He kind of, I mean, we listened to the radio, obviously, but like with him, when we were with him or my mom, it was either like salsa Puerto Rican music playing in the background or old like 60s music, a lot of 60s music, 60s R&B, that kind of stuff. So or 50s, but I think that it helped me be more well-rounded with as far as music, but especially that Columbia House, because that just
oh yeah, yep.
I was able to explore and just be like, yes, that's what I want to listen to.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah, and that, I'll even go further than that. My dad didn't ask me to buy music; he did it, and his range went from Creedence Clearwater to Queen to the Village People. You know, it was insane. So yeah, I loved it when it would show up, and I think back then it mostly came. Gosh, I would almost have to say 8 tracks. The Columbia House.
Oh.
That was the end of the 70s. Whatever, you just throw it into a unit and just play it. You know.
yeah.
And that's what kick-started, my passion. And I try to do that to my kids. And, you can never, before you have kids, you say, oh, I want my children to be like this. I'm going to do this because my parents didn't do that. Perfect example, my firstborn was a boy. And I refused to have him get his hair cut for like the first 2 years. So he had really long hair, and because basically that was me. I couldn't grow hair when I was, under my parents. They said, no, you're going to cut your hair. That's what you need to do. And so I wanted to rebel. And later on in the 90s, I grew long hair. But so I'm like, okay, I'm going to have my kid be the mirror spitting image of me. And he didn't want it. He wanted his hair short.
Yeah.
I like Chevys. He likes Fords. Yeah, you can't create a mini me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm like, you got to at least, both me and my wife were at least take some sort of music in class, and we push it. My daughter's still doing it. She's doing clarinet for the 3rd year. You have to have some sort of grasp of music, because I promise you, both my son and my daughter, at some point in time in their life, they're going to wish that they continued on, because everybody, I don't care who you are, is going to wish that you were able to play the piano or play the drums or play the guitar or whatnot. It's so important. We can't lose that. I mean, that's something that's, both me and my wife, she was, through college playing the violin, she had a scholarship. Wow. So both of us, we're passionate about music. But kids, can take it or leave it. I'm starting to feel that my son and my daughter listen to certain types of music, but they won't tell me. I'm waiting for them, because I've got boxes and boxes of CDs, with you name it, anything and everything from the 50s up to today, until at least we stopped buying CDs. But when I found my parents' record collection and 8 tracks and whatnot, that was it. Beach Boys, Beatles, you name it.
Yeah.
And I remember growing up just pretending like I'm on stage, air guitaring and everything. And hopefully I'm waiting for my kids to say, Dad, you mind if I listen to this old, Pearl Jam or Soundgarden CD? I was like,
this old.
Tear it up. I know.
Do you mind if I listen to this old?
Yeah. Dad, who's Anthrax? I just threw it in and I like it. Is that, it's like, yep, let me sit down and I'll tell you all about them. So, it's crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
that's another thing though, because I don't know about your kids, but I try to limit their phone time and whatnot, and I don't know if it's the TikTok or if it's the oh shit, now I brain faded, the Snapchat. But when I hear my son scrolling through, it's funny because whenever music is playing, it's an old freaking 90s song. It's you guys don't even realize that your music nowadays suck. You can't play it. I hear in the
yeah.
background an Alice in Chains song that he was scrolling through, and it seems like every fourth or fifth time it's a certain Alice in Chains song. I'm like, I would at least school him on it. I wouldn't give him. I would say, stop, Elvis. Who is that? And now he knows. I mean, my daughter's middle name is Lane. Lane after Lane Staley, the lead singer of Alice in Chains. So I want them to
Yeah.
know the whole genre. I'm not going to force them to like, my grunge, heavy metal, what have you. But I want them to know. I want their knowledge of music to be deep. Not just only
Yeah.
Taylor Swift, or something like that. It's got to be deep.
Right, right. Yeah, Post Malone, that's all they know.
Yeah, yeah. I like some Post Malones.
No, me too. Yeah,
I like some
definitely.
Weekend, Dua Lipa.
I have that on my phone. Yeah,
Yep.
I hear you. Like, what's funny, the most recent one that's been coming up a lot is Milli Vanilli, the girl I'm
Oh.
Gonna Miss You, because of the
Gotcha.
Menendez trial thing.
Oh.
And
Oh, really?
the guy, yeah, so the guy who did the, Ryan, I forgot what his name is, he did this, I think it's a mini series on Netflix on the Menendez brothers murders. And so at the funeral, apparently he played. I don't know if this is true or not. You want to say it's based on a true story, but again, he might have done a lot of things at Liberty. But I want to say this has to be true, because why would you throw that in there? That at the
No.
funeral, one of the brothers played "Girl, I'm Gonna Miss You" for his mom or whatever, and it was just like, and they're just sitting there like, and it was just a big thing, and I'm thinking, that's in my rotation right now. What do you know about Milli Vanilli? Like, you don't know nothing. When my kids are playing on on TikTok, and whatever it comes up. I refuse to download TikTok. I've never had TikTok. I actually had TikTok when it was Musical.ly, back in like 2013, I think, maybe, or 14, 2015. It was Musical.ly back then, and people would get on and lip sync to stuff and whatever. And then when it changed to TikTok, I just never downloaded it, and I never have and never will. And I get TikToks all the time from my kids, and I'm like, if you don't download the video and send it to me, I'm not going to watch it. So, and then they just are like, Mom, you're so old, whatever. But it definitely, my kids though, I think we brought my kids up with, my two older daughters, obviously their dad was Scott. So he was classic rock king. So, the girls grew up listening to classic rock all the time, because that's what he would play, that's what we would listen to. So it was kind of a mix of between, and we had a 12-year gap there, that difference, the age difference. So you had music that I liked, music that he liked, and then music we both liked. So the girls grew up kind of with everything, including their own music that they would listen to. So they're very well-rounded. And then my four younger kids, with their dad being into music and stuff, and then when I was into music, we just kind of did the same thing. And then we both loved the 80s so much. So we've played a lot of 80s stuff. So at some point I thought, we go back, I'll hear a song and it reminds me of like 7th grade or, something.
Yeah.
It's that ingrained memory of something. Usually when I hear like Red, Red Wine by UB40, like that brings me back to 7th grade, and I just can picture smells, everything, junior high, everything. And I think my kids are going to hear probably the same song and have the same memory, because we were had them so into listening to older music all the time. So they're very well rounded. I mean, they listen to stuff that I'm like, who the hell is this? Like, what are you playing? And then all of a sudden, they get the aux cord in the car and Isabel's playing like Art LeBeau oldies. You know what I mean? Like those oldies. And I'm just like, yes, you were raised right. I'm so glad. So they're pretty well rounded. My Isabel loves like Nirvana and that kind of sound. But I'd say all my kids are pretty well rounded. with music. Julian's really the only one that I feel like doesn't like. He listens to music, but I don't know if he has anything favorite. Like that he really listens to. But I think all the other kids are really like they identify with music. Like it's part of their identity. I feel
Perfect.
like.
Then
And so
then you did it right.
yeah, so I'm happy with that, and it's good. And yeah, sometimes it's and what kills me is when I hear a song that's new, and then I'm like, that song's not a new song.
Yep.
Or it's a sampled. Let me play you the real one.
Yes, and absolutely. I think that's going to be a whole nother podcast because, again, my range. I'll listen to the Kiss FM type stations, and then when it goes to a commercial, taking my daughter to school, I'll flip it to another station. It's country, and lately I've been hearing a lot of new songs that it's not even sampling; it's the same damn song, and they just change the lyrics. And initially, my first reaction was, you guys just stole this. You can't come up with something on your own. But then I had to kind of check myself and go, you know what? Music, people have been doing that forever and ever. Everybody has to be influenced by somebody. But I would love to have a board here with the original and then the new one and play them, because I don't know. I'm positive the kids, the modern, the original, the modern song that's coming out that they're listening to, I don't think they even know that there was, the original song. And we went through that as well, I Love Rock and Roll by Joan Jett. She didn't write that. It was another, somebody else wrote it years prior. So, and we could have a whole entire conversation about songs that were made, but when you hear it for the first time and it catches you and you get into it and you listen to it more, that's the original. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it was made, wrote and sang by somebody from 1920. If it was put out and you like it, that is it. But it's just crazy how I think maybe even it's possibly just the transition of generation to generation. Even radio has changed so much over the past 20 plus years. That's all we had back then. Now you've got insane amount of options, whether it's Spotify or Pandora or YouTube or whatever you even see on TikTok or Snapchat, just a little snippet. That's another thing. Kids nowadays, they don't even have the attention span to listen to a 7-minute song. It has to be, just a minute, and then they move on. But it's crazy. And maybe just because I'm a music nerd, I always want to deep dive. Maybe like somebody that really likes reading, or they like a specific author or poetry. It's crazy. I think back of when I was in high school, and there was really only a very, very small handful of classes and teachers that I can still remember and appreciate what they were trying to teach us. One of those classes was modern poetry. I hated it. I just took it because it was better than, another class that I was forced to take. But that particular teacher just put something on the table and said, we're going to dissect it and we're going to understand it and discuss it around the room of what you think that means. And it's crazy because, when the movie, when a song is written, whether it was handed down, and honestly, before we even got on this, I think you were running a little bit late and you texted me and said, hey, I'm still trying to adjust some stuff. So I quickly threw on YouTube just to kind of pump up my vibe. And the first thing that popped up was it wasn't even a Soundgarden song. It was a Chris Cornell song that he wrote for the soundtrack Seasons, that movie from the 90s. And the YouTube video that came up was a Howard Stern had Adam Levine. What the hell was the name of
Maroon
of his
5?
Maroon 5. Thank you. But anyways, he had Maroon 5. He had the whole band there, and it was like less than a week after Chris Cornell passed away. And so obviously they wanted to celebrate Chris Cornell's life, and Maroon 5 had actually put together that song Seasons. And that is my favorite song by Chris Cornell. And but it was a different person putting it out there. And now I will go back and forth and listen to the original one from Chris Cornell, and then listen to the one that was in honor of him by Maroon 5. And I'm like, shit, I don't know which one I like more. And I that's what music does to me. It gets me, it grabs me. It just makes me sit and think, or it makes me, snap my feet and want to dance or whatever. That's the best part about music. And hopefully that never changes in my life.
Yeah, no, I definitely, we went and saw 21 Pilots in concert, and that was the most amazing concert ever. Like, was just it was just everything. Like, I hear certain songs they play, like their opening song, because it's the Clancy tour, so their opening song, and from the album, just I hear it on the radio, and I'm back to when the show starts and the musical's playing, and that and it just like, whoa, you're just like, yes, and it was just, God, I had so much fun at that concert. I felt like I was a teenager again. And there's something about 21 Pilots that's got me. It just got me. I've loved them.
I won't
for
argue
years.
with that. I won't argue with that for sure.
And now, but what's crazy is and this is funny that my daughter Reagan, she is also like just me with 21. She's more so because she listens to them all the time. But she actually explained the whole lore behind everything, like all the videos and Trench and, all the different albums and what they mean, and who Nico and the Niners are, and Blurry Phase, and this whole thing. And I was like, I just liked it. I just thought this was great. But now she explained the lore behind it all, and I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You're never too old to learn, but I have a whole new appreciation to them and their music, and
for sure,
it's so good.
Yep.
And I'm just like, it's how can somebody be so talented? Like, how?
I know.
Like, this is just so
and
much.
It's like two guys. It's freaking two guys.
Yeah. I was like, wow, this is amazing. Music's just amazing.
Yep.
I mean,
love it to death.
Yeah.
We should probably do something with music sometime. Maybe.
Yeah. Like what?
Start a radio station or something. I don't know.
Start our own radio station. We just play whatever the hell we want.
Yeah. Let's rebel.
There is no, see, we'd have to be, well, I mean, unless we do a pirate radio station. Remember pirate radio?
Absolutely. Yep.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of sad now that I think that a lot of people say, oh, nobody listens to the radio anymore. And, everybody, I think it's changed a lot for sure. But I do get sad at the thought of people not listening to the radio anymore. But because I honestly, I get in my car and I listen to my iPhone, like my Apple Music. I don't really listen to the radio unless, like, my cord broke recently, so I've been I can play it over Bluetooth, but sometimes the Bluetooth doesn't connect, so I'll just listen. And the two go-to stations is like an R&B station. It's almost like a 99.1 KGGI. It's like that kind of a station. Mm-hmm. But it's like from back then because it's playing all throwback from back then. So I feel like I'm just back then. And then I'll go to our oldies station, which is the equivalent of like KF 101. Which, by the way, I don't like the people call oldies like Nirvana and
right,
like that oldies, because that's not oldies.
Yeah.
and it's not classic rock.
When we
It's
were,
no,
when
like
I was,
no.
when I would put on K Earth back in the 80s, it was the 50s. So 60s,
I
70s,
understand,
80s. So
but I'm not
that's what
talking
that,
about it age wise. I'm talking about it label wise. So when you
okay.
label music, right? I can't sit there
Hmm.
and say, when I say I want to hear oldies music, I want to hear 50s and early 60s music.
Okay.
When I want to hear classic rock, I want to hear 70s music, rock, and like maybe some early 80s classic rock. I can't sit there and go just because it's 2024 and say, I want to hear some oldies music and play something that was from 1985.
All
That's
right.
not oldies
Hey,
music
I'm
to
not going
me.
to argue with you. I'm not going to argue. I
It's just
look.
it's a
I
different
don't want to
label.
be. I don't want to be that old geezer. Back in my day, you damn kids. I fight real hard not to be that old grumpy man. Things were better back in my day. But I agree with you. I am not going to argue with you. And you know what, Jen? I think kids. Yes, it would be nice if there was radio stations that people can interact to. You and I have discussed that also. I think that's what's missing in podcasts. I like to interact. Obviously, I love chatting with you, but I'd love to get other people's opinion, like instantly, spontaneous stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's missing in the lack of radio. Nobody calls in. I listen to three or four different radio stations, and you never have anybody calling in except for maybe a canned contest to where someone will, oh, I won, blah, blah, blah. Who gives you the best hits? Oh, 90 KGGI. That's not it. That's not interaction.
Yeah.
It's let's going to the phones type of thing. But I will tell you, I think kids unknowingly do interact. And the example is, I know you don't subscribe to TikTok. I do only because my daughter had it downloaded on her phone and I've heard so many bad things about it. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to download it to find out what this TikTok thing's all about. And then I took it off her phone because she was 12 at the time. But when I downloaded it, it's an algorithm that kind of finds things that you're into. Obviously, I don't want to be into the teeny bop stuff, but it'll be like a mechanic that's building a car or some stupid thing that it sees that I like, and then it keeps rolling that algorithm. But every once in a while, there's also, you can swipe and it's like a nothing but live streaming. And I rarely will watch that or participate, but if there's ever something that somebody that I like, their algorithm comes through my feed. I think it's called my For You page. Yeah, I sounded old right there, so whatever. It is a live stream. And if you click on it, you will see people commenting throughout the entire thing.
Oh,
Not just
right.
sending like the likes or the hearts or the whatever. And I know there's the full on OnlyFans, and that's how people make their money. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people that are watching the same live feed that you and I are watching, and they'll throw in a comment. And that's what it was like 20 something years ago on radio. Except you couldn't just instantly blast your comment. You had to wait. You had to dial in about 30 or 40 times. And then if you were lucky enough, the phone started ringing. And then at that point, you had to wait another 20 minutes for somebody to pick up the phone and answer. And then if you're lucky enough, they'll actually put you on the air and hope to God you don't get stage fright and hang the phone up, because I did that. I did that as a kid. 30 minutes later, they go, hey, this is K-Rock. What do you got to say? And I panicked, I froze, and I hang up the phone. But that's what it was like, but you're interacting. And I think that's what, I don't know. That's why I think that music and content, social media, I think that's what we need to do, is just people interact. And I think at the same time it needs to be live, and you need to have people to either contradict or answer or to rebut. You say that this movie shouldn't be made because it's bashing people that are getting bullied in school. okay, you have your opinion, you're entitled to it, but I think somebody else, and maybe the audience or a forum, needs to come right back and say, you know what, lighten up a little bit. I think we just, in life and society, we go back and forth too much, but we say what we say and then we just throw it out into the internet world. But I think people need to start talking and not just throw this out and then let other people bash it, because that's bullying too. You know, people have committed suicide because you cyber bully somebody. Maybe if we weren't cybering and actually having a discussion and talking it out and airing it out. I mean, Jesus Christ, we're going through a presidential, election year, and the world is divided. The nation is divided. Maybe if we just sat and debated it and talked it out, that's the whole premise of debating. But I don't know, Jen. Maybe I'm rambling. Yeah. I'm ranting. I'm sorry. I'll shut up.
No, but it's one of those things where I think especially nowadays with like Facebook and whatever and social media, it's so quick to just be able to write what you want to write and, like you say, throw it out there and then I'm out, as opposed to being held accountable for what you're saying and answering questions from when people are saying, well, why do you think that way? Well, what makes you think this, or what makes you think that, and having an open discussion and then also being able to just say, we can agree to disagree.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
We can agree to, I don't have to agree with you, but we don't have to hate each other. I like what we talk about. Just
music. Yes. Music and what music does to us spiritually, mentally, physically. Yep. Jesus Christ. I pierced my ear because of Tears for Fears. I was 14, 15 years old, saw a Tears for Fear video, and it thought it looked cool, and I shoved a thumbtack in my ear. So, yeah. You know what? Maybe we should do a podcast where we're in the same room and we both take acid.
Yeah, no. Probably Could you not.
Imagine? No. All right.
No, that.
I've never done acid, but it just sounded like that would be something crazy to do. Maybe mushrooms.
I plead the fifth on that.
Okay. I don't know. It would probably make for a very interesting podcast, though.
Yes. Or a very frightening one. I don't know. It could go either way.
Okay, but would it be entertaining? It probably would be. Probably would be entertaining.
Probably.
That's all that matters.
Well, I think we'll wrap it up there. And with
Sounds
that,
good.
I think I don't think we ever mentioned that. Is it Friday yet?
I know.
At all. This whole
We're
time.
getting there. We're getting to it. It's always.
Yeah.
You know what, Jen? It's always almost Friday, and that's what I live for.
Me too.
The best times.
Same.
Again, music puts us in our happy spot, and Friday does the same thing. So I think the best times of my life are on a Friday while I'm playing music. So we'll leave it at that.
Sounds good, my friend. So until next time.
You got it. Love you, girl.
Bye.
Take care.